What are the major failures you have seen in Scalar?
The model says that, hey, you come study with us for free. Once you get placed, give me a percentage of your salary. Simple. People from a narrative or a PR point of view, it sounds so great. Only if you get a job, aap pay karo, right? That model failed massively. Not just at Scalar, across the industry. There were a lot of negative reviews about Scalar online. And in general, EdTech faces this, right? One person has a bad experience, they'll create a video and then it just goes viral. So managing that mess was a big
I remember upgrad sued Scalar, right? At that time on the advertisement front. What was the experience and how mutually this both company were mature enough to solve this? Let me go back to your story because you came to Scalar after a great entrepreneurial journey. So let's start with imposter syndrome, right? Like how an entrepreneur can come out of this syndrome? Like how can they fight about this?
I mean, like an entrepreneur goes through shit, right? We were so bootstrapped, right? So that journey of figuring out things completely on your own, years of building that company completely changed me as a person. I don't come from a business family and my CTC in 2014 was a 18 lakh rupee job. And when I left that, okay, my family, some of the members of my family went batshit crazy. They're like, hey, like there's something wrong. I feel entrepreneurship is almost like a sport and you need to be an athlete who's ready, like both mentally and physically.
Apologies to all the friends to not hanging out with you. Apologies to the gym, which I always cheat. So I've written a good post where you cannot actually do what you want to do because you're so focused and you want to hit the bullseye, right? You will be perfect. You really need to accept the imperfections. Do you see any Indian company tomorrow who can compete with NVIDIA? If yes, how? If no, why? Welcome back to the Last Laugh podcast. I'm really proud to call somebody who has been my alma mater and also someone who is a visionary in the EdTech industry. Meet Manmeet. Manmeet is the pioneer leader in the Scalar and also a leader who has built the offline business of Scalar, that is Scalar School of Technology. Scalar School of Technology is the Ivy League of software engineers. He has talked about AI and he has talked about how Indians are going to be better software engineers than Chinese and Americans. If you're someone who is building in EdTech, this is the podcast for you because all the founders who are in EdTech will face all the situation which Manmeet has faced. If you're someone who is not able to justify the program fees, not able to justify the aggressive marketing, or not able to justify the referral scheme in EdTech, this is the podcast for you. Manmeet has given some secret formulas for all the EdTech players out there how to make a sustainable business model in EdTech. But before we go ahead, please subscribe to the show. We are doing our best to get the best profiled entrepreneurs, leaders on the show. So we believe in the Indian dream. Subscribe to the channel now. So welcome Manmeet. Thank you so much to be here. And my first question is very straightforward. What motivated you to be in EdTech? And what is the point that you decided that I want to be in EdTech?
Awesome. Firstly, thanks for having me, man. Like coincidental that we met, went to the same college, share a lot of common friends. So thanks for having me. Appreciate the work that you're doing. My journey goes back 10 years. So 2015, 2014, I was this MBA college kid who was figuring out what to do in life. I'd done some amount of teaching and I enjoyed that. Okay. And I started reading a lot. I don't know, just going down the rabbit hole. I researched the reports present on Teach for India website. There's an org called Pratham, which does studies on Indian education levels with different bodies. And just going down that rabbit hole, it was pretty obvious like this sector, if I benchmark it, let's say, with other countries, India is like way, way back, right? Even today, by the way. Okay. Right. And it was clear to me that something needs to be done. And I just felt passionately about this idea way back in 2015. And I decided that I want to get into the education space. And given India's opening up, investments happening, there was no Byju's, by the way, back then. Okay, there was no investment in education. There was just a company called Educom, which was by this guy named Shantanu Prakash, who was one of the pioneers. Eventually, the company did not do well, but one of the first guys who tried to get technology into education. I used to follow those guys and got really inspired by folks like Shaheen Mistry, etc., who Teach for India founder.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe, I don't want to sell Horlicks.
Okay.
Which is what I got into. Like, I got a PPO at GlaxoSmithKline. And I want to actually do something which creates impact. Now, I can sound all smart that, hey, I knew Geo was coming, I knew internet revolution, but I didn't know any of that. I just knew that this is a problem that exists. And maybe people like us who typically choose investment banking, etc., of a certain education level should get into this sector, right? Now it's starting to happen more. I see a lot of smart people who I work with at Scalar, which is where I currently work. So yeah, that's how I started.
So there is a gap which you saw in the market and you did not want to do the regular boring job. You wanted to do something new, which is going to be impactful, visionary. And I think you found the right gap after witnessing Teach India thing, right? The next question is in Scalar in specifically, right? What is the learning curve you had till now?
It's been 4 years at Scalar. Work very closely with founders, other leaders within the company. Right now, for the last 2 years, I've been involved in setting up the offline vertical, right?
Okay.
Now, what do I mean by offline? Scalar is the leader in online tech education in India. Over the last 10 years, Scalar has been around for 10 years. We've upskilled about 40,000 people in fields like computer science, AI, etc. It's known for producing awesome outcomes. For example, in 2021, Scalar placed more people into Amazon than all of the IITs combined.
Wow.
Okay. So stuff like that was happening. And we were like, hey, while we are solving for this, so Scalar earlier ran a 1-year online master's program, still runs it. It's a master's certificate program. Let's say someone works at an Infosys, wants to get into an Amazon. They come to us, do like a 1-year program, right? So we were doing all of that. There's a lot of success there.
Got it.
But hey, why are we? I mean, there is... the reason for that to exist is that undergrad education is broken in India. So that's why we launched this, our own undergrad college, which is reimagining engineering grounds up.
Got it.
Okay, I can share some crazy stats with you.
Yep.
In case you're curious.
Yeah,
right?
I will be asking you about the statistics later.
Sure.
But my question next would be, when you talk about Scalar School of Technology, right?
The
In
learning
2024, let's come back to the originality of EdTech, right? Because EdTech has been at the peak during 2018 to 2021. And now it has gone at the bottoms down because of Byju's.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not say because of Byju's, but one
Just
of the reasons, which
yeah.
is why EdTech ka naam kharab ho raha hai. Right.
Sure.
So
before I go there, sorry, I also rambled a bit. So I'll quickly give you the journey.
Right.
Some of the learning arc thing that you spoke about, and then we'll talk about what's really happening at EdTech in 2024, right? So on the journey part, Scalar School of Technology is the offline business that we eventually started. Completely rethinking engineering grounds up, where curriculum is built by industry for industry. There are 100 plus CTO, CXOs who've come together to build this college in Bangalore. It's a residential program, right? 4 years. In year 1, we had 5,000 people who applied.
Year 1 itself.
Year 1.
Wow.
Only 191 were selected. So selection rates are at par with Ivy Leagues.
Got it.
Okay. In year 1, it was about a 4 million booked revenue kind of a business. Year 2, which is 2024, we did about 12,000 applications, only about 400-ish selected. And it's already a $12 million booked revenue, 100 crores booked revenue business in just 2 years. We ended up creating a new category. And there are many more players now entering this new age engineering college category, and the country honestly needs it. Before that, the 2 years before this was essentially scaling the online Scalar business. So when I joined, we were at about 8 million ARR, about 100 people company.
Okay.
And in the next 2 years, I saw that journey of going from 8 million to 65 million. And I think we grew to about 1,200 people as a company. So that entire journey is what I've seen.
What are the major failures you have seen in Scalar?
Sure.
And then let's start about, the Scalar School of Technology.
At a company level, I mean, I can talk about what are the things that we tried,
Sure.
did not work. Scalar essentially started off with an income sharing agreement model, ISA model.
Okay.
The model says that, hey, you come study with us for free.
Right.
Once you get placed, give me a percentage of your salary. Simple.
Okay.
People from a narrative or a PR point of view, it sounds so great, right? आप
Right.
free में पढ़ाओ, guarantee मिलेगी तो ही आप only if you get a job आप pay करो, right?
Right.
That model failed massively. Not
Okay.
just at Scalar, across the industry. Anyone who tried an ISA model has either already pivoted, either shut down,
Okay.
and I'll share reasons for that. Essentially, like a student who comes in, one is like already creamy layer, right? Like you already take just the best, right? तो आप best को बस train करोगे तो the delta that you create is not very high, right? But that's even not the main reason. The main reason is that someone who comes in with an entitlement mindset. Like, hey, you selected me, now you get me a job. I'm not going to study.
Right.
Right? And that is why the sort of endeavor to study goes away. And therefore nobody studies, and therefore the outcomes doesn't even come. And like, think about this. If someone gets a 40 lakh rupee job, you take 10% of that. So someone who actually does better versus someone, let's say someone gets 20 lakhs and you take 10%. So jo acha kar raha hai ends up paying more
Right.
in this model.
Right.
So that's why the model failed. So that was the one first
biggest
big
failure. Yeah.
Now what that led to is that there were a lot of negative reviews about Scalar online. And in general, EdTech faces this, right? One person has a bad experience, they'll create a video and then it just goes viral. So managing that mess was a big.
I'm going to ask you about these questions for sure.
Yeah.
So, because one of the failure because I am coming from EdTech and I know that we're sitting at the table, I was representing one EdTech, you were representing one.
Yeah, competitors.
Yeah, exactly. Competitors. But eventually, I remember Upgrad sued Scalar, right? At that time on the advertisement front. So do you want to share about that? Like, what was the experience and how mutually this both company were mature enough to solve this?
I think Upgrad and Scalar have gone through a journey where today, by the way, Mayank, Anshuman, Abhimanyu, who are the co-founders, hang out all the time.
Right.
and they keep sharing inputs. And I think people have realized that it's collaboration is awesome, right? So, but back in the day, what had happened is that some senior leaders at Upgrad ended up joining Scalar, which obviously rubbed off important people the wrong way.
Right.
And therefore, they ended up like, there was an argument, there were some legal notices, etc. From there on, obviously, because we're in the same space, ran like similar programs for computer science. So वो होता रहता था कि हमने उनके keyword पे bid कर दिया. They bid on our keywords and all of that. But eventually, as the industry matured, all of those cases were amicably settled outside courts, luckily. And now we are like friends, almost.
As a founder, tell me about that, right? Because let me go back to your story. Because you came to Scalar after a great entrepreneurial journey. So let's start with imposter syndrome, right? Like how an entrepreneur can come out of this syndrome? Like, how can they fight about this?
Sure. So yeah, I basically, like I was saying earlier, 2015, I got this thought that I want to do something in entrepreneurship. Spent 2 years immersing myself. Like I took about 650 classes, really went deep to understand the problem, and then started a business called Clarity.in, which was on-demand mentoring. Now, on the scale up of that, like we did about 300 colleges across India, some 5,000 students impacted, and eventually the business got acquired. I mean, like an entrepreneur goes through shit, right? Like not just imposter. Imposter is one of the problems, right? Hey, am I really that guy who's going to tell like a kid or that happens all the time, right? Especially we were so bootstrapped, right? So that journey of figuring out things completely on your own. Of course, there are mentors, there are very helpful people, but you are the one who's responsible, right? Those 3.5 years of building that company completely changed me as a person.
Wow.
So what all did I have to go through to this thing? Firstly is the ridicule of family, right? Like I think you come from a business family.
110%.
But still you face that.
Right.
Like I don't come from a business family, and my CTC in 2014 was a 18 lakh rupee job at GlaxoSmithKline, and when I left that, okay, my family, some of the members of my family went batshit crazy. They're like, hey, like, is something wrong? What's happening here? So fighting that stigma is one, but of course, like you eventually overcome it because you're so focused on execution and doing well. I think the other part of the challenge, sorry, I'm digressing from the
that's
imposter.
fine. We really want to know this. This story is more important.
Yeah. The other part is losing friends, dude. Like, I mean, like when you are working every weekend is like, chalo, kisi ko mil lete, kuch kar lete. Now, of course, I gained a lot of friends,
right?
But my original set of friends, you don't have time. Like 100%. You're on all the time. Sunday you're thinking, kya karna hai, kaise karna hai, and that takes a toll. And actually, would love to talk about the physical part of it, right? Like there was a point where, of course, the hustle led me to skip lunches many days.
Yeah.
And there was one point where my family doctor sat me down and was like, dude, you need to start BP tablets because your BP has shot up. I'm not doing that. And then I started on the health journey. So lost about 8-9 kilos in the last few years.
I can clearly see that.
So you need to do that. So I feel entrepreneurship is almost like a sport, and you need to be an athlete who's ready, like both mentally and physically. Otherwise, you won't be able to sustain, right?
Amazing.
Because it's so rigorous. It's one of the toughest things that I have done, taking those decisions.
I recently wrote a post about this. After 2 years of my entrepreneurship, I wrote a post like, apologies to all my family members for not giving you time. Apologies to all the friends to not hanging out with you. Apologies to the gym, which I always cheat. So I've written a good post where you cannot actually do what you want to do because you're so focused and you want to hit the bullseye, right? When you are working as an entrepreneur. But eventually you understand that not every time you will be perfect. You really need to accept the imperfections and work on yourself. And as you rightly said, athlete mindset, you might not hit the goal, might not hit the 6, but it's okay to have a 1 run also. It's okay to have 2 runs also. So
it's so nice to speak to someone who's gone through like that journey, right?
Right. So let me go to something which is very, very viral right now in the social media front, right? Where people are talking about companies like NVIDIA, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft. And because you're coming from a school of technology, I definitely want to hear your insight about this, because all these companies are not Indians. Right? They're not coming from India. And it is said that 95% of the semiconductors are only built by NVIDIA. Do you see any Indian company tomorrow who can compete with NVIDIA? If yes, how? If no, why?
Pehle to, let's break it down. Right?
Yeah.
Like the AI market today, there are 3 pillars to it. Okay, one is the compute pillar, which is the NVIDIAs of the world, right? Where you rightly said they dominate. And by the way, it's like of last year, it's like 104 billion kind of revenue generated. 95 million was these guys, NVIDIA, and therefore the crazy valuation. The other is the algos, OpenAI, right? Claude. Now there are so many more coming in. Again, they together do 3-4 billion. Again, super important. And the third pillar is data. If you've heard of a company called Scale AI, they essentially give the clean data which helps power these algorithms. So data 3 pillars, right?
Perfect.
Actually, sorry, there's a fourth, which is like the apps, like the layer that you build on top of this.
True.
They earn the least amount of money today because they don't capture the most amount of value, and every time a model upgrades, many of them die, right? Now coming to the India question, I think thoda sa her segment mein if we see, on the semiconductor bit, very difficult for us to be able to produce something which is new. But yes, I think the whole initiatives which are being taken, Dolera mein, there is a semiconductor chip coming, etc., where we be part of the supply chain in some way, where we partner with all of these existing giants. That's taking step 1, right? You can't just go to step 100. You have to start somewhere. So that's realistically what I see. I think the government is working towards that. Let's see. And with private players coming in now, the Tatas of the world, so that's exciting.
Amazing.
On the algo bit, I think the challenge with competing like OpenAI, and there was a controversy, right, where Mahindra and Mahindra. Mahindra IT guy gave him Sam Altman an open challenge saying that hum bana ke dikhayenge. I think the challenge there is the lack of PhDs.
Lack of PhDs. Wow.
नहीं है ना इंडिया में. मतलब जो deep AI research कर रहे हैं, apart from the top 5-6 IITs and few like Indian Institute of Science, etc. The ecosystem that needs to exist and the aspiration to do that. Today, the smartest guy in India is not like wanting to do a PhD because the rewards are much delayed.
Okay.
But US में ऐसा नहीं है. US में PhD is the aspiration. कि यार PhD. अपने यहाँ पे इज्जत कहाँ है PhD वाले की है? I don't. बहुत कम है.
Yeah, true.
So, in fact, on the PhD thing, there's a guy, Yan LeCun. He's known as the godfather of AI. Recently did like a detailed podcast, WTF Nikhil Kamath. He was in India. He speaks about the same thing, that PhDs is what you need to really innovate in that space. It can't be business guys just saying that aaj kuch bana denge. They'll end up creating rappers.
Okay.
Right? Now, on the data side, I do see a huge opportunity in India. Essentially, the space there is that, hey, like what takes ChatGPT 3 to 3.5? It's not the algo, it's the data.
The data, yeah.
So the way Scale AI works is that they gather, it's basically human reinforced learning.
Okay.
They will gather millions and millions of data points and there will be a human who will study that question. Let's say a user has asked that question. It's seeing how the LLM has answered that question and it gives feedback like, is this right, not right? And that's how it refines. So when you have millions of data points, which thousands, so Scale AI has about 300,000 freelancers across the world, which manually tags this data.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that.
No, I never knew this.
So that's how what GPT does, what OpenAI does is it takes that feedback and that's how it improves its model. There's a human basically doing a lot of this. Of course, it keeps improving. Human involvement with time reduces. But there's Scale AI which is doing it.
Right.
Uber has also launched Uber scaled solutions to compete with Scale AI. Okay. Scale AI, I think, is already $14 billion valued company. So I do see a lot of opportunity in India for this because India has smart people who are unemployed.
Right.
So for example, coders, their freelancing can make a lot of money.
Wow.
Right? Because they can give feedback on the code written, etc. etc. So wahan pe hai. On the apps bit, I think what's going to happen is, and I'm sure you've heard of this, is that vertical SaaS, AI enabled.
Right.
So where deep business expertise meets AI understanding.
Yeah. It's a proper use application.
I believe this is something which is going to happen a lot in AI, where existing companies or new companies which have just a fully new... I want to give you a small example if you don't mind. Like in Scalar, we have like a 400-member counseling force which speaks to students directly.
Okay.
Now, you know what? It's very easy to missell. Right? Like I could tell you that, hey, I'm assuring you a 30 lakh rupee job, right? And please enroll in the course right now.
Okay.
Now, of course, there are processes around it. There was a 25-member audit team which used to randomly listen to calls of particular sales guys and then tell us that, hey, is this guy doing well, not doing well, etc. AI came in. We anyway were recording all the calls. We now sent it to GPT. GPT transcribed it and we had trained it to flag mis-selling. For example, if someone guarantees placement, we know that through the conversation that he's this thing. And that gets flagged real time on our Slack channels. You know what happened? Our social media escalations went down to 0. The audit team went from 25-member team to a 1-member team.
Wow.
It's crazy. So the kind of, this is AI applied to a business use case. And people are going to figure out ways to make their work processes much, much, much smarter using AI. And I think that's going to happen a lot in India for sure.
Amazing.
And we see that already.
So I'm just going to ask you about Dixon. Do you invest in share market?
I do.
Okay, so you know about Dixon, right? Dixon Technologies. They are into basically all the electronics. If you know Vivo, all these phones, so all the electronics is provided by them. So it is one of the talk about stock right now because it is always on 20% upper circuit, right? And same way NVIDIA, right? When you say NVIDIA, when you say OpenAI, Microsoft, everybody, right now.
This is also in the news because of the latest phone that they launched.
Yeah, not latest phone. They acquired Vivo's 51% stake.
Oh, okay, that's
right.
right.
So I mean, it's going up and up and up, right? So I'm thinking from that angle. If you know Vedanta, obviously, so Vedanta is coming with semiconductors. They have a very good scope where they want to bring semiconductors. Reliance want to bring semiconductors. Tata's want to do it. So do you think that there will be something like in the startup ecosystem, something like this? If you know anybody, would love to give a shout out to them, where they can scale this to an IPO level, and people can obviously support them. Do you think something like coming up like that?
Honestly, नहीं कर रहा है
कोई कर ही नहीं रहा है.
हाँ, मतलब बहुत like जैसे for example वो 2 hands करके calculator है ना, वो सुना है 2 hands के बारे में. तो वो लोग भी चाइना से करके आ रहे. तो the ecosystem just doesn't exist right now for someone to. अभी हम लोग assembly करते हैं, right? The majority of this and equipment ही नहीं है ना.
Right. And this is why exactly asked you this question is because my next follow-up question is on this only. Like China is 10,000 times ahead of India, right? In this space, AI dominance, totally. I mean, we know about US for sure, but the second name is coming out now is China.
And there's talk about China surpassing US, right? Like for the right reasons, I mean.
Okay, so any perspective on that? Like, why do you think so?
Cool. Before I speak about the surpassing part and like I guess the undertone of your question was China versus India in this and what are the lessons for us, right? I mean, firstly, broadly, I have massive respect for China and I think the narrative of China competing with us and all of that is bullshit. We have a lot to learn from them and we should respect them for the right reasons, right?
Okay.
See, look, there were 2 things that went right for China. I think they were 15 years ahead of us when it came to liberalization. Like 1978 mein unka hua tha, apna 1991 mein hua, right? So what is that? 13-14 years. So Deng revolution happened. Now wahan pe bas fundamentally India se kya alag hai is the efficiency of the government. Like I don't know if you know this, but wahan pe jaise imagine this, Bombay hai. अब whoever is responsible for managing Bombay, अगर उसका KPI है कि तुम्हें GDP per year 15% grow करना है, you would think very differently, right? You would not dug up roads every 3 days. But वहाँ पे ऐसा है कि the city, like the way the structure works is that state level, city level, the admin in charge there has a KPI to grow the GDP of that particular region.
Okay.
Because of which the policies are very, like even though they're communist, but the policies are proper capitalist.
Okay.
Right? And they're very, very, very pro-business. They work closely with you to make it happen because unka KPI है, ऊपर से उनको डंडा पड़ेगा अगर growth नहीं आया तो.
अच्छा.
Now imagine that, right? So they have a head start, plus they have a very efficient model. Of course, there are flaws and I don't want to go all there. It's working for them right now.
Right.
And because of which the industrial policy around AI and getting the best PhDs, the US में थे, like I was saying, right? PhDs. वहाँ पे वो reverse brain drain happened 10 years back. So 10 years पहले ही they started like incentivizing, they started this thing which allowed local Chinese researchers and so by the way, there is a university when we were building Scalar School of Tech, while we looked at the Stanfords, but we also look at this university called Tsinghua.
Okay.
It's China and is doing some crazy work.
Okay. Give me some samples about the work.
So वही मतलब ये जो सारे research हो रहे हैं ना on the latest models, तो वो यहाँ पे हो रहा है and there's जैसे हमारा JEE होता है, उसका crazy next level equivalent होता है गाओखाओ.
Okay.
China में तो एकदम best brilliant 1% of China goes into these places. Government has supported these guys.
Just a very 5-year-old kid. Can India apply for such exams in China?
No.
It's only for Chinese.
Okay. And मतलब वो JEE से भी ज़्यादा tough है.
अच्छा. Okay.
तो वो अलग game चलता है. Like there are crazy things. Maybe you can Google this where लोग ना IV लगा के वो exam के लिए पढ़ रहे होते because yeah, it's true कि because they have to sit down for like 20 hours etc. मतलब वो थोड़ा सा न्यूज क्रिएटिंग स्टफ है. एक्चुअल में कितना होगा पता नहीं, बट यू लाइक इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग. यू कैन गो डीपर इनटू दिस इफ यू आर क्यूरियस. तो वो तो क्रेजी सीन है. तो वहां पे अभी वो इंडियंस कहाँ, मतलब वो सब इसमें नहीं घुस पाएंगे. बट द पॉइंट दैट आई वाज ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट the government has supported these universities not from a just दिखाने के लिए. Like there is genuine research happening there and there are funds available and these PhDs can make as much money that they were making in the US and stay in China.
Right.
So that's what started the ball rolling there. And of course, the Chinese model is simple: pehle copy karo, then innovate karo.
Innovate karo. Yeah.
And those companies are just racing ahead, right? And the hunger, the vision. I mean, if you meet a Chinese, and I've met a few, and like I say randomly, like their vision is very, very ambitious. It's not ki iterative nahi soch rahe wo log. So that also helps. So that is why they are so many factors ahead of us, right?
I mean, in World Economic Forum right now, 60% of Indians, right, are, and specifically coders, are going to be unemployed. Okay. And the unemployed people and the new talent which is coming in India, they are chasing US dream, right? They are chasing, I mean, they want to go to US for software, for IT, or they want to now as you said, Israel is another country which they are chasing. Japan they are chasing. China they are chasing. So how do you make sure, as Scalar School of Technology or Scalar as the organization, right? How do you make sure that you retain this talent in the country itself?
One of the premises of Scalar School of Tech is that, hey, how do we produce world-class engineers here in India?
Right.
I mean, you can argue that IIT Bombay, IIT, maybe the top 5, right? Delhi, etc., Madras. They produce good engineers, but that's because the selection is that way. Okay. The input, like the prof's curriculum, sorry to say, is not cutting edge. Maybe profs are good, but the curriculum is still old, right? And therefore, and also, by the way, whatever is produced from here, even today, 80% is, there's brain drain. They go out.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure if you know that. Like, वो ऐसा नहीं है कि ठीक है, startups अभी हो रहा है. Maybe that 80 has come down to 70, but majority of them still go abroad.
Right.
So the hypothesis of SST was, hey, can we build strong product-based engineers here in India and then connect them to opportunities which will not pay them as much, like you can't pay them $120,000 starting, but still there are good product-based companies which will pay you 40-50 lakhs here in India.
Okay.
And you can have that kind of better lifestyle in a way.
Right.
Compared to the US. There are many arguments for that. So, उसमें क्या होता है कि you have to train people for product-based companies versus the service-based company mindset.
Okay.
Product-based company में fundamentally क्या अलग होता है is the ability to to problem solve and do critical thinking.
Okay.
तो मतलब ये बहुत वो AI के वर्ल्ड में क्वेश्चन आता ही है कि अरे why should I do this when AI is going to write my software? So AI today does only what you tell it to do. But what to do? Problem solving, मतलब कि यार बनाना क्या है, कैसे बनाना है, problem को break down करके बताना, that is the job of the smart engineer.
Okay.
So again, an engineer only spends 20% of the time coding, 80% of the time is thinking कि बनाना क्या.
अच्छा.
Which is the critical thinking and problem solving POV. Right? So, वो teach करना इंडिया में कोई नहीं करता है.
Got it.
Which is what we are trying to do. There's a lot of focus on hands-on learning. बच्चे projects बना रहे हैं सारा time. बच्चे मतलब even like just a stat I can share is that just in their second year, 100 of them from the first 191 batch are already interning at companies like Dukaan. They're building like chatbots with them. I don't know if you've seen some of those tweets. Yeah. So, काफी cool चीजें हो रही है, which is what gives me that confidence and passion to say कि सही.
So, at a conclusion, I mean, so it is said that you should always be stronger at your fundamentals, right? So, if you want to enter into, something like fashion designing or something in design, your strongest point should be creativity. If you enter into something like Python or coding language, your fundamental should be logic. So what is happening here is that Indians are focusing more on programming languages, Figma, this and that, but they're not focusing on fundamentals and they're not making their fundamentals stronger because these tools are getting eradicated tomorrow, right? And then they are like, job nahi hai.
Correct.
So we have to focus on fundamentals more. That's what Scalar is doing. That's the base of any education, right? So,
I have a 3-year-old kid.
Oh, wow.
And it's time to send him to school, right? So I've been reading and researching and thinking about this a lot. Ki next 15-18 years mein kya? Like what is it? Like AI is going to like just change things, right? So what is important? Like you said, right? This is fundamental. So I was trying to break it down and I even had chats with like CHROs, people who hire smart people. What are they doing? Like what are they thinking about the kids? And the way they broke it down is that problem solving, fundamental skill. राइट आप फैशन भी बोल रहे थे तो उसमें भी आपको आधा टाइम तो प्रॉब्लम ही सॉल्व करना. आप डिजाइन नहीं, आप सप्लाई चेन सॉल्व कर रहे होगे. right? Design is just one part of it, right? And design also like multiple constraints, kaise karna hai, kya karna hai. So problem solving.
Got it.
Critical thinking, the ability to question what someone is saying, right? Not just by hearting facts, jaise typical boards, even today, NEP vagara is just on paper. Actual mein, even today, it's just by hearting. Right? State board, CBSE, etc. So wo nahi. Critical thinking. And then there is the whole collaboration, communication piece.
Wow.
So at SST, one of the first things people do is that we train them to become a creator, what you and I are doing.
Right.
You'll see students doing that. Like someone who's training for computer science is doing this. Why? Because that, like by doing, you learn, right, how to communicate. So you'll see a lot of our students from here, मतलब वो आए है कोई tier 3 city se, might have not even heard of that city's name, but today are so confident they can have a chat with the CEO because they've like done.
It is said
like
that if you're able to build the product, you should also know how to sell it. And
absolutely,
that is where Scalar as a school of technology, right? I want to understand from that, apart from, learning the coding and etc. How do you train students in mental wellness, because there is so much of stress and anxiety now about careers, about life as such, right? Job milegi, nahi milegi.
Yeah, man. I can tell you this for sure that this generation is more stressed than ours for sure.
Right. So how do you train them?
I think it's firstly why is the paradox of choice. So many things, so much information. पहले ही होता था कि मेरा locus, मतलब यही होता था कि मैं and मेरे 50 friends, उनमें मैं कहाँ stand करता हूँ. अभी हो गया कि मैं और 5000 लोग social media, where do I stand?
Right.
And that always, like, you'll not be, कोई ना कोई field में तो you'll not be in the top, right? And that creates a lot of anxiety. So this generation is stressed and we recognize that. And therefore, what we've done is that we've partnered for mental health specifically. While there are on-campus Didi Bhaiya kind of personalities, what we call as batch success managers, who anyone can reach out to share problems. So that is one layer of solving this. The other is that there are companies like Listen that we've partnered with, who do like full batch ke liye one-on-one counseling.
Wow.
And then they come back to us with that, hey, this kid is a red flag, this kid is an orange, this kid is a green. And red ke liye there is a different workflow made to ensure that they are supported well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of
That's
interventions.
a new age of learning, a new age of counseling too.
Yeah, I mean, there are many such startups which are coming up and trying to solve this problem.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm going towards the difficult questions now for you.
Please.
Because there are so many myths, there are so many controversies online. And I really want to, get an answer from you, right? So first is going to be very clear. Scalar की fees बहुत high है. New age business की fees बहुत high होती है. Like, if the fees are so high, right? Is the curriculum, syllabus, teachers, or something like, is this relevant in today's world? Because all the old school businesses which are there, right? They are not charging so much. But eventually the curriculum and Scalar's curriculum is something similar, which is there online. So want to identify from you how Scalar is going to be different here.
Sure. Right now I'll talk about Scalar School of Technology, which is the undergrad offline business, right? There our fees typically per year is 5 to 6 lakh rupees. Definitely, like for someone who makes 5-6 lakhs a year, it's on the higher side. Like how do they afford it? But by the way, also it's a myth, like कि ये तो कुछ अलग ही ये है. Do you know how much BITS Pilani charges? BITS Pilani?
30 lakhs.
Yeah, it's 28 to 30 lakhs. Worth it? Like you go there, there's an input, there's an output. Student ends up paying the loan in 3 years.
Right.
They provide quality.
Right.
Like in our case, the people who teach are people who's an ex-Google engineer. There is no concept of a regular teacher.
Achha.
We hire only ex-engineers who want to teach, who are passionate like us, कि मुझे education में कुछ करना है, only they get paid as much as they were earning. So a typical instructor would make anywhere between 5 to 6 lakhs per month, right? Whereas like traditional colleges will pay 1 lakh, etc. So on an input level, there's a lot that goes into this. One thing that I missed adding is that today, if you see the landscape, right? Like LPU, for example, you've heard of LPU as a college. LPU fees is about 18 lakhs for 4 years, approximately, if I'm not wrong. There's VIT, there's MIT. So private colleges, 4-5 lakhs is the norm. Now, because we give so much quality and there is of course, this is not a non-profit, right? It is a for-profit business. You need to maintain that 10-15% margin. So therefore, the fees is slightly like 5-6 lakh. Now to support students, and by the way, data there is that 66% of our students are not from tier 1. They are from tier 2, tier 3. Average income is on the lesser side, like 8 to 10 lakhs per annum. 60% of them are below that. The reason for that is that we support them with scholarships. There are financing partners, etc. So these are standard ways that people solve these problems. Ki how do you solve for affordability? There'll be an NBFC partner, banking partner which solves for it. तो बच्चों मतलब थोड़ा ना काउंटर इंट्यूटिव है. मुझे भी लगता था कि अरे बट the consumer is very smart. They know कि यार वो रेगुलर बीटेक में जाऊंगा, कुछ सीखने भी नहीं मिलेगा, इतने पैसे भी ले लेंगे, 5 लाख का प्लेसमेंट लगेगा, उससे अच्छा लेट मी इन्वेस्ट इन माई सेल्फ.
Got it.
So it's actually an easier sell to someone who doesn't make as much.
Okay.
Counterintuitive.
Now this is a question to the industry, right? Because it's said that EdTech has done all the wrong marketing initiatives. They are going very aggressive for marketing. And they are creating fake testimonials on the website or etc. They are using referral schemes. They are also hiring mass and firing mass, right? So there are many, I would not say uncivilized, but not practical ways to run a company at a longer longevity. Yeah. So just wanted to have a heads up on the same. Like, how are we different? How are the new age business school now are planning after 2023, which is when the Byju's bubble burst, right? And eventually, if you remember Karan Bajaj, I think he started with White Hat Junior, and there was an advertisement which went wrong. Like
Wolf Gupta. 14 crore package, 8-year-old kid, I think.
To 8-year-old kid, 14 crore package, the advertisement went totally wrong, and there was like huge virality over social media. So just wanted to know heads up on EdTech industry, education industry, and how do you see this to change in next few years?
See, in hindsight, it's very clear that whoever deployed these tactics is back to zero now, right?
Okay.
Where is Byju's? Where is White Hat Junior? Nowhere, right? Somewhere I do credit our founders that they had their heart in the right place, and therefore they're very cognizant of this from day one. Having said that, we've also had a learning curve, right? So, I mean, year 1 में, whatever successes we got, we've put them on the website. Now, उससे क्या होता है कि people think that ये तो मेरा जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार है कि इतना तो मुझे भी मिल ही जाएगा ना, placement हर जगह होता है. तो when you sell by leading through outcomes, then you're going to fall because that creates the wrong this thing. Then we refined our pitch. We started saying that, hey, मेहनत करनी है आपको. This is like a gym membership. You come in, you have to work hard. There is no placement guarantee. In fact, the first session talks about this upfront.
So there's no placement guarantee.
And the kid is allowed to take a refund at that time.
Wow.
तो वो करना ही पड़ेगा ना. Otherwise, they will come back to you later saying that, hey, आपने नहीं कराया मेरा, right? Now, even if you do this, after doing all of these initiatives, like there's a special projects team which is to solve for this. There is a team which solves for this. There will be students who will say that, hey, look, like I paid this much, मेरा तो outcome आया नहीं. I'm talking about the online, and there will be this thing like when you operate a scale business, वो तो होएगा ही होएगा, and you will see negative reviews and all of that come out. And कहीं ना कहीं, thanks to the likes of Byju's, there's a lot of negativity around EdTech, so it just gets amplified. At Scalar School of Tech, because we had all of these learnings upfront, we are very clear. मतलब हमारे सब जगह ऐसे बड़ा disclaimer लिखा होता है कि placements के जो भी numbers आप देख रहे हो, that is for online. We are very clear with parents that, hey, look, first time हो रहा है, and your kid needs to put in the hard work. This is what we've done in the past, but it does not guarantee future.
Okay.
Right? And somewhere I think the industry has evolved. So there are guidelines also which have self-regulating guidelines. Upgrad and like couple of people made a self-regulating body and said that we have to start like adhering. So the industry overall has improved. So कहीं ना कहीं आप देखोगे कि लिखा होता है कि past placements are not guarantee of future placements.
Got it.
And stuff like
but
that.
But is this right to say when the fees is around 20-30 lakhs, right? And then the placement is around 7-8 lakhs. So obviously there is like a question on the traditional schools, I mean on the new age schools versus the traditional, right? So placements is all about demand and supply. Do you agree that? Or
Uh,
the opportunities are created?
Of course, a lot goes into placements. Like, for example, even the best of the IIT batch in a recession year, because of external factors,
Mhm.
will not get good placements.
Okay.
So external may break down kar de, internal may break down kar de. External you don't have much control of anyway. So let's not talk about that. On the internal side, now the thing is that अगर आप रिवर्स इंजीनियर करो कि कंपनीज को क्या चाहिए एंड देन यू बिल्ड योर प्रोग्राम अकॉर्डिंगली एंड यू स्किल दोज इंजीनियर्स इन अ वे दैट द कंपनी गोज वाओ यही तो चाहिए था राइट दैट्स व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू कि the kid graduates with 1 year of industry immersion. They graduate with 10 projects on their resume, which makes them irresistible. And in a way, it's already happening. Like Subhash, who's the co-founder of Dukan, messaged us saying कि अरे यार ये बच्चे second year में ही are so much better than final year students and some of the working professionals because उनको skill आता है. And in tech, nobody cares कि तुम्हारी age क्या है. Like as long as you can do the job, you have the skill, you get an outcome. So our focus is more on the input, which ensures that the kid is skilled. बाहर externally ऊपर नीचे कुछ तो होता रहेगा, but when the market is right, उनको मिल जाएगा.
Got it. So 2024 report by World Health Organization, 24% of workplaces are in stress, and I'm very sure you know about currently Zepto, McKinsey, everybody talk about toxic work culture. I believe 2 years back, EdTech it was known for toxic work culture, right? So I really want to know from you, first is how do you manage your professional and personal work life? How is your schedule look like? Like as a leader in Scalar, I want to understand what is your daily work schedule. And
Sure.
If you want to give a lessons to my previous question, like you heard about Zepto, you heard about McKinsey, what is your perspective? How do you manage life?
I think, see, as a media outlet, I get why they cover it.
Okay.
Like it's a hot take. इसने Zepto founder ने ये बोल दिया, नारायण मूर्ति ने ये बोल दिया. Okay. The truth is, like, if you really want to build something meaningful, there is a lot that goes into it.
Okay.
I mean, I was listening to Elon Musk's interview where he said that pre-Twitter, he was already working 80 hours a day. Post-Twitter buyout, he was working not a day, but 80 hours a week.
Okay.
Post-Twitter, he was working 120 hours a week. I don't know how that is even possible.
Okay.
अभी उसको कोई क्यों नहीं क्वेश्चन कर रहा है? Right? Abhi, it's a subset of that only, right? Like now, if I think about my own startup building days, if I would say कि नहीं मैं 9 to 5 ही काम करता हूँ और उसके बाद लाइट ले लेता हूँ तो कुछ नहीं meaningful बन पाएगा. I mean, the culture in China, for example, we spoke about China earlier, is ruthless. I mean, like, and they all, I mean, in a way, it's a mission, right? Like you're building something. Now, of course, under the guise of this, you can't treat people in a bad way. You can't have toxic work culture, which is where the role of, like, in startup generally it's founder led. It can't be like a CHRO led because the power dynamics are such. So I think the policies solve for that. For example, Scalar also has this thing, but like I remember last few years, हम लोग का एक last full week छुट्टी होता था December में, full week paid holiday for the entire company.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And people used to really appreciate stuff like that. Of course, this is where after the downturn of the EdTech sector, some of this stopped. But it's really on the leaders of how to create that right culture. And you don't allow toxicity to come in, but that mission drivenness of यार करना है, बनाना है and available होना है, वो wokeness is something that I'm very against. कि यार मतलब आपको काम करना नहीं है, मतलब 1000 reasons दे रहे हो, ये problem है, वो problem है. So that just doesn't work, right? In fact, what I strongly now feel is that not everyone is cut out to work in a startup.
Wow.
Obviously, right? Because you need to have a certain risk, certain like tolerance for ambiguity. You need to have a certain ownership. तो हमारे हर JD में ये सब लिखा होता है कि यार ये filter तो है ही, आप कोई भी function में जाओ. Okay. Because उतना crazy हो जाता है. Right? When you are, I mean, just to give you an example, Scalar School of Technology was launched in 100 days. 100 days में हमने college चालू किया. Is that possible 9 to 6 काम करके? नहीं. The teams that worked with me were on for 4 months and sure they felt burnt out. Sure they felt कि यार थोड़ा break चाहिए. and then the break happened. But looking back, they're super proud of it, right? Like
Wow.
when you do hard things, you feel proud of it.
How do you hire such talents which are going to work with you on the mission?
Yeah, I think that's one of the lesser talked about things, but this is what makes or breaks startup. Like ऐसे लोग अगर आपके साथ जुड़े हुए हैं,
Mhm.
then that is what makes or breaks startups. And I think it comes with, so for example, what we have done internally is that there are some really hungry leaders, ex-McKinsey guys, who are, again, just genuinely wanting to create impact. And when you hire such leaders, under them, they end up building teams which are very similar mindset. Right. Founder's office persona.
Got it.
Right. I think you a similar stint at under Ronnie. So I think that's my general take on this. कि यार मतलब वो आपको अगर हार्ड वर्क 70-80 आवर्स नहीं देना, आप मत जाओ स्टार्टअप में, आप कुछ और देख लो. ठीक है, बिकॉज वो लगता है उतना.
If the mindset is only not there, then the person will not be able to survive in startup ecosystem. And Zepto is aggressively growing right now. And what valuations they are at, what numbers they are at, so brings down to my valuation bubble, right? We saw Byju's bubble. Do you think Zepto will also go through the same journey because of valuation bubble?
I think the business, firstly, see, everyone has become more cautious, right? Like that journey of crazy money flowing in. मतलब वो हर layer पे there was craziness, right? Like Fed is pumping money, that's going to, LPs have a lot of money, LPs को चाहिए return, उनको VCs कुछ बेच रहे हैं.
LPs पहले revenue देखते थे, अब profit देख रहे हैं. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, सब level पे सब पागल हो गए.
Right.
Now, post this, even when like people are investing in Zepto, I think they are very cautious, and therefore, like some of the like Zomato, Blinkit, like the kind of value they've been able to derive, and the listing on the stock market and the reception of the market tells people कि ये model is there to stay, and the unit economics are not that bad, right? I feel that कि zero नहीं होगा, मतलब ठीक है, there might be some hype to it, we'll see with time, but there is merit in what they're building.
Amazing. Obviously, because I believe government is supporting them. I mean, Reliance, Tata's, I have seen them also, talking about them. So it's not like Byju's, because it was not supported by, first of all, customer only, and then, talk about other stakeholders. So Zepto, I am very bullish. I don't know why, but I'm very bullish because they will survive, because they are actually trying to solve the real problem.
Yeah.
10 मिनट में अब iPhone भी आ रहा है. So अब सब कुछ आ रहा है. 10 मिनट में सब कुछ आ जा रहा है.
मतलब it's behavior change, right? Now we can't go back.
Yeah. True.
मैंने मतलब literally 2 दिन पहले Amazon से एक बल्ब ऑर्डर किया था, ऑर्डर प्लेस कर दिया, फिर मतलब एक से नहीं से Blinkit पे देखता हूँ, Zepto पे देखता हूँ, वो 10 मिनट में सेम प्राइस पे आ गया, मैंने कैंसिल कर दिया Amazon का. Like I think across India this behavior is changing, at least in our kind of this thing, and then like it'll go deeper in India.
So now like Scalar is at 700 million.
710, yeah.
710 million, right? How do VCs are looking at you, and what is their expectation now? Because it's very important for the viewers who's looking. Anybody who's building in EdTech, or anybody who's building in any type of space, how are VCs looking at such organizations who have already led Series A and Series B? Now, when you are talking about Series C and IPO, how do you what are VCs expecting, and what is the exit strategy which you guys are pitching them?
One is that the expectations from VC so what happened with EdTech is that there was this whole premise that things are completely moved online, like those crazy days, right? 21, 22. Now what happened is that once people started their regular jobs, they started going to office, the time that they had to learn online went down. And therefore, somewhere the sector growth across, like all players, there's a downturn. So therefore, in the recent 1-2 years, the growth expectations on the online front have definitely gone down. However, and typically what happens is that when there is pressure on growth, CAC increases, you end up spending more. However, I think again across, what people have realized is that, hey, why are we building new categories? Right? Why? Because it takes a lot to change behavior, right? Like आपको online upskilling करना है, it's an option, right? 100 में से 10 लोग को ही करना होगा. But engineering तो सबको करनी है ना. Undergrad तो सबको ही करना है.
Right.
So can we start disrupting these markets?
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, engineering is a 66,000 crore market per year. 16 lakh engineers graduate करते हैं. I think only 16% find a job.
Okay.
Right? Surprising, right?
Yeah.
हमको नहीं समझ में आता बॉम्बे में बैठ के, but this is true. Only 16% find a job and only 2% find a job which is greater than 8 lakh per annum. चल रहा है जैसे चल रहा है. There are 4,000 engineering colleges. We had collaborated with Mohak Mangal. He did a research on Indian engineering college and he came up with this: 65% of them are owned by politicians. Which means the incentive, like it's not a free market essentially. The incentive to produce outcomes is not there. So we feel that market, we meaning like the industry, I feel that market is ripe for disruption.
Right.
And the products that are genuinely being offered by us are 10x better than regular programs. And therefore you'll see like these guys trying to capture a lot of this traditional market, jo sabko karna hi hai. You will see a lot of capital flow into schools already happening. If you've heard of a group called Lighthouse Learning, KKR group had invested in them.
Okay.
EuroKids सुना आपने?
Yeah.
EuroKids का parent है वो. So now they started Euro School, ये वो heritage schools को acquire किया था उन्होंने. So you'll see a lot of capital flow into traditional areas, and that's the next growth. This thing, and to your question of VC expectation, this is the, and physics वाला recently raised on this pitch, not on JEE prep. University बना रही है हम लोग north में, देहरादून में. So yeah, that's the, like the industry is going from online to offline traditional categories.
Wow. So the
An academy, offline coaching centers.
everybody, I think, Upgrad, Great Learnings, Emeritus,
Upgrad, study abroad, you were mentioning, is doing so well.
everybody is going offline and having their offline existence. So that's a new way of education.
And I'm excited about that. Like, I don't care about those narratives कि अरे पहले online कर रहे थे, अब offline कर रहे हैं. But the fact is that these guys are 10x smarter than the guys in, like, sorry, I'm probably offending folks, but the guys in regular education say to 10x smarter, and therefore they'll do a great job.
Okay. Now, as a marketing leader, this is my last session and the last part of the podcast. And this is for all the viewers here. We are going to throw so many questions to him. Very rapid, right? So he's a leader. He's an expert in marketing. So my first question is, do you think social media influencer-led marketing is really impacting not only in EdTech, but overall as a industry? As a marketer, do you think social media is
education
changing
marketing
things?
is all about trust.
Okay.
And trust comes from faces that you know and trust, and therefore influencer marketing works.
Okay.
However, influencer marketing is now becoming commoditized. The influencer which don't have any principles, ethics, किसी के साथ मतलब आज 1, 2, 3 players सब same बोल रहे हैं उसी कर लिया, will not end up doing well. The ones who are really in it genuine, they will do well because it's all about trust.
Okay. Do you think Indian startups are too focused on short-term social media trends rather than long-term brand building?
I think largely yes, because of the revenue pressures. But there are some people who are getting it right, who are focused on, like Cred, for example, is focused on long-term brand building.
Do you think that edtechs are creating FOMO for all the students so that they basically, take the courses?
You can call it FOMO. We call it trust building.
Okay.
That what are the outcomes that people have got and this thing.
Right.
So the honest answer, hand on heart, is I think yes, that's the part of strategy of most companies. However, there's a thin line of doing it right, and if you cross that, you go the white hat junior way.
Amazing. Are coaching institutes and edtech platform replacing universities? Is it a good thing?
And like I said, yes, and it's a great thing because lovely professional university. Sorry, nothing against them. They're doing what they're doing, but they onboard 25,000 students every year.
Right.
Now, the kind of outcomes, the kind of quality, etc., is this. Now, when these edtechs or the guys who are from the IITs, from really good backgrounds, come and start traditional colleges, they'll end up doing a 10x better job. And
do you know, right? The owner of lovely professional university, Pratham, has now built Master Union.
Yeah, why is he building that? Because he gets it.
Okay. So,
by the way, Pratham has been super supportive of our endeavors at SST. Again, like I was saying earlier, industry is allied, collaboration is better than...
Wow. Can you talk about this in depth? Like how Master Union, Scalar, or any other...
So Masters Union was doing what we wanted to do, but in the business space. They said that learning business by doing is the right way to do it. Pratham, with his family's background of building LPU, had a head start, and they built a solid brand-led business under Masters Union and did a lot of things. Now, given Scalar was the leader on the tech side. We reached out to them and they were super. Like I've had chats with their team
Right.
probably 20 times, and every time like they've been super helpful, supportive, and giving us inputs which help us shorten the learning curve.
Okay. Indian startup often overpromise but underdeliver to customers and investors. Is that true?
On the customer side, no. The only reason that they work is that on the customer side they provide 10x value.
Mhm.
Like Zomato,
Right.
Swiggy, so many examples,
Right.
right? On the investor side, I think not just Indian startups, but startups across the world have underdelivered
Mhm.
on the valuations, etc. So I think, but that's a short-term COVID-led phenomenon. It will solve
Got
in the
it.
long time.
So the last message to all the viewers, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, what are the new opportunities which are coming in the industry across India? Like, because you're leading a school of technology, you would be knowing that technology is the future, AI is the future. So what are the different type of opportunities apart from your traditional conventional opportunities? So if you want to give some ideas and startup ideas.
Sure.
Something like that.
I think 2024, 25, this whole decade is a generational shift, right? With Gen AI coming into the picture. I mean, literally, like there's a Wait But Why करके blog, उसमें एक article है which shows that how we are on the crux of like just zooming upwards.
Okay.
And I think it would be a sort of a mistake, like if you have the option and still not getting into AI, I think it would be a mistake. Like you should, if you're someone young thinking of, and it could be simply like you apply AI on a business vertical to try and create something which is 10x better than the current alternative, right? So my general advice to students, and a lot of them are already working on a lot of AI related stuff, is just pick up a vertical, understand the business nuances of it. You all already understand tech and try and apply it,
Okay.
right? I think education will transform. I think every sector there are use cases to do some crazy stuff.
Oh, can you name some 2 use cases or 2 business ideas which are doing very well?
So, ByteDance, parent company of TikTok, has launched an app called Goth. It's the second most trending in the US right now. What Goth does is that it uses AI to help students with homework.
Right.
So, like you can choose any category. You click, you take a photo of the question, and then it converses with you and helps you solve that. Right. So, it's AI applied to education. We at Scalar are also building products where we are trying to productize our founder.
Okay.
कि उनके ही रेप्लिका, उनका नॉलेज बेस को आप हाउ डू यू लेट्स से मॉक इंटरव्यू करना है, तो अगर बच्चे को, अगर अंशुमन who has worked with Mark Zuckerberg directly, if an AI avatar of him can do a mock interview with a kid in a very effective way, the kid will be well prepared for the interviews, right?
Right.
That's one more example of, and I'm sure a lot of companies will start getting built. So I can think of these two.
Wow, amazing. So thank you so much. It was a really impactful podcast. And to all the viewers, 45 minutes, I'm very sure you are getting some value add. And from the leader, Manmeet, who is leading School of Technology, I'm sure there is a reason they are said that Ivy League of software engineers, right? So do check out Scalar and follow The Last Laugh.